Tonight, the race for the national championship continues just southeast of Chicago. 10 grand bought a chance for a regional championship, and just 9 players are left. The field was hungry, the stakes were enormous, and the poker play has been exceptional. The final table is all that separates these 9 from a circuit ring and $500,000. Welcome to Horseshoe Casino in Hammond, Indiana, just a short drive from the windy city of Chicago. The World Series of Poker National Championship $10,000 buy-in Midwest Regional. Ali Nejad along with Antonio Esfandiari. Tonight's final table giving us a look at some rising stars, including Gabe Petgorski, David Doc Sands, Shannon Shorr, and Brandon Adams. Antonio, I know you've had plenty of time on the high-stakes tournament circuit. Some of these faces familiar?
Yes, I've actually played with both Shannon and Brandon. They're exceptional poker players, and I think Brandon is looking to get it all in very soon.
Blinds at 8 and 16,000 with a 2,000 chip ante. Buttons on Kurt Kohlberg to start the evening off. Bernard Lee under the gun. Also a familiar face.
A very avid poker player.
Member of the poker media, part of ESPN's Inside Deal web series. He lays down the 8-deuce with ease. Deuce-4 offsuit for David Sands. He escapes. Jim Anderson laying down the Queen-Jack offsuit in C3. And the fold festival continues. Queen-5 isn't going to cut it. Over to the button for Kurt Kohlberg. He's not in attack mode.
I would have raised here. I'm on the button. It's the first hand. I'm going to set the tone early.
Probably would have gotten re-raised or at least called by Gabe Petgorski, who takes a peek at ace-jack suited and raises enough to put Brandon Adams all in.
Brandon has to find a hand here to call. 5 high is not going to cut it.
Chip leader, originally from Chesapeake, Virginia, now living in Las Vegas. Where else? Adding to his chip lead to start the evening off. Some of you might be unfamiliar with the World Series of Poker National Championship, so let's break it down. It's a new format that is very player-friendly. $1 million tournament for 100 entrants. The catch is no buy-ins. 36 spots go to the players who make the 4 final tables at the regional championships, while the other 64 qualify along various World Series of Poker circuit stops during the year.
There's a lot of overlay to play in these tournaments. The top 100 get to play in another tournament down the line where there's some money added, and they're giving away a bracelet.
Cool deal for those involved. Shannon Shorr looks down at a couple of nickels and makes it 38,000 to go.
Thanks for making it neater.
2 laydowns, and it's over to Gabe Petgorski. The Doyle Brunson, he's not going to get involved, but 2 10s for Brandon Adams.
This is definitely a ship, and Brandon ships.
Adams' last stand.
Ace-3 not looking too good.
Back over to Shannon.
And he's going to call. It's a pretty short raise there. He has to call.
Little better than a 4-1 favorite is Brandon Adams. Can't ask for much better than that with all your money in the middle.
No, you really can't. He's got a pair of 10s. His opponent has an underpair. That's exactly what you want in poker. He's a big favorite.
Brandon has a spade. No diamond, though. And no 5 either. 2 10s looking even better at this point.
Looking pretty grim for Shannon.
And that look says it all. He does have plenty of chips, however. Board pairs on the turn, and one of 2 lonely 5s is all that Brandon Adams has to dodge in order to double up.
Here comes the river.
And he does dodge that 5, celebrating with his mom over on the sidelines. Brandon still has his work cut out for him, however, just over 280,000 in chips after winning that pot. And with the blinds where they are, He's by no means out of the woods.
At 42,000 around, he's still looking to get it all in pretty quickly here.
2,000 ante every hand does add up quickly. Ace-10 offsuit for Mark Owens, and he lays it down. Must be clairvoyant, because 2 aces.
I mean, when you know the guy behind you has 2 aces, I guess you should fold ace-10.
Yeah.
Raised to 31.
Kohlberg makes it 32,000 to go. Min raising here.
And that is just a great feeling when you're at a final table and you look down at 2 aces and open. It just feels good.
Very small raise could invite action that Kurt would otherwise be avoiding, and of course he won't mind that with 2 aces, but not going to get a lot of information about your opponent's hands with a raise that small.
No, but min raising has become quite popular nowadays in tournaments for whatever reason.
Evolution of the game. There are trends that develop.
Absolutely. Sand sitting on a pair of 3s. His opponent has opened for a raise. I think flat calling is the optimal play.
Well, that's you, and this is David. He's making it 88,000 total, very deliberately.
I think that he's putting himself in a bad spot here. If he gets re-raised, and a lot of times in a hand like ace-queen or ace-king is going to re-raise, what's he going to do with 2 3s? I don't want to get all my money in with 2 3s.
Kurt Kohlberg has announced a re-raise, and it's going to be to 218,000 total.
This is 130,000 more.
To David's credit, he does lay the hand down very quickly.
But once you put yourself in that spot, I think the only thing he can do is fold.
Kurt Kohlberg's going to collect this pot after a celebratory fist pump. Looks like that lucky necklace he received as a gift while on vacation in Africa is working out well so far. You superstitious?
Not at all. I don't believe in superstition whatsoever.
No rabbit's feet, no 4-leaf clovers, horseshoes?
Not me.
No rituals?
0.
Not the superstitious type. Ace-queen this time for Kohlberg.
Raised to 40,000.
Notice he makes a 40,000 and not 32,000 here, whereas before he min-raised with the aces. And I think that as a tournament player, you should try and keep your bets consistent, where, you know, good players will pick up on your range with the amount that you raise.
Brandon Adams laid down 2 6s pre-flop as the action's now over to David Sands.
It's a pretty strong laydown there with 2 6s, and I think it's pretty close. You're going to get it all in, or you're going to wait for a better hand to get it all in with. And I might have shifted there, but I think it's really close.
David Sands taking his time before eventually laying down the suited connectors. All too tempting in No Limit Hold'em. 2 8s for Tony Hartman, otherwise known as Snowman. He's going to smooth call from the small blind.
And I don't love this play. You're going to put yourself in a bad situation a lot of times, calling out of position with a medium pair. When an overcard comes, what are you going to do when you check and your opponent bets?
End up playing the guessing game the whole way down. 2 kings, 2 clubs on the flop. Hartman's 8 still good. Checks it over to Kohlberg.
See, when you play a small pocket pair like this, you put yourself in a bad spot because you're almost always going to check after the flop, and your opponent is almost always going to c-bet. There's a very good chance that an overcard comes on the flop, and so now you kind of put yourself in a pickle.
For those of you scratching your temples at home wondering what c-bet means, it's just short for continuation bet, which is exactly what Kurt Kohlberg is doing here.
Kohlberg bets 40,000 into 114,000 pot. Hartman sitting on 2 8s. I think this is a ship he folds. I would not have folded here. I mean, what kind of flop are you looking for when you call out of position with only 190,000 in chips?
We play for big pots, small stakes, and the chance to say, read 'em and weep. For the weekends, the all-nighters, and the lunch hour. We play for the legends and for the unknowns who dream of winning it all. For the bad beats and the pocket kings we sometimes have the sense to fold. We play at FullTiltPoker.com.
Welcome back to the World Series of Poker Midwest Regional Championship. Over $500,000 going to one of our remaining 9. We pick up a hand in progress where David Sands has King 5 suited.
He's in late position. He's got a big stack. You know, I would probably open here, as so would he.
And the open is to 44,000. The blinds have gone up. They are now 10 and 20,000 with a 3K ante. Now, typically we see the 3X raise in poker tournaments to open, and that's standard, but it feels like we've gone to 2 to 2.5 here.
Sometimes a certain person that sets the trend at a poker table, they start opening for 2.5, so everybody else starts opening for 2.5. And that's just kind of how poker works sometimes.
It's the stimulus package. 2 8s for Shannon Shorr. We see him call from the small blind. Same thing that Tony Hartman did.
Slightly different situation. His opponent, the original raiser, is an aggressive player with a lot of chips. If he re-raises and gets called, he's kind of in a bad spot. I don't mind the flat call at all. He wants to see a flop and play afterwards.
Call.
May feel differently about Mark Owen's call with the 8-5 suited.
He's only calling 24,000 more. He's getting almost 6 to 1 and a potential triple up if he hits a dream flop. I like the call.
And he probably likes the flop. 4-6-5. He's got middle pair and a gut shot straight draw. Shannon's 8's still the best hand. David also with a pair of 5s and a better kicker than Owens.
As much as he thinks he likes his hand, he can only win in a showdown if one of his opponents fold.
I'm all in.
All in.
He ships it all in for 205,000.
Call.
And Shannon makes the quick call. He's in great shape here. For Mark Owens, the good news is that he's actually up to a 4% chance to win the hand because David Sands folded the King 5. Board pairs on the turn, only 1-5 left in the deck. The King of Hearts on the end sends the 38-year-old options trader's market plummeting. His portfolio comes to a close, but not before cashing out to the tune of $48,000, which he will take up the road to Chicago and his wife and 2 kids. Looking at the chip counts, there are 4 princes and 4 poppers left in the field. Let's catch up with Mark.
It's always disappointing when you get knocked out, no matter what place it is. But, you know, in the grand scheme of things, I'm pretty pleased. I satellited my way in. I think, you know, I invested $200 in this tournament, and I'm coming out close to $50,000, so it can't be too disappointed.
Back to the action where a few players have complained about how long David Sands has taken to act on hands.
I'm not even taking 45 seconds.
He's really not taking that long.
Hey, Dave. I mean, that's fine, but if it's not, I really don't think it's inordinately long. It's not, I mean, if you want to time it, tell me the length.
I'm not going to time anything.
It's just the pace at which I look at my cards and act. I mean, it's 30 seconds, maybe.
It's not even. I don't think it's.
Yeah, but you know what you're going to do when you wait a minute to look at your cards. We know you're going to put in a raise.
Every player, we all love you, but if you could play just a little quicker, I think everybody would have. Just pre-flop, that's all. After the flop, you do whatever you want.
You'd appreciate it, but I just don't think I'm out of line. I really don't think 25 or 30 seconds to look at my cards is out of line.
I'm not trying to get an argument.
No, if every player did it, it would be 8 minutes a hand, right? Like, probably.
But I don't think for 7 minutes for my long decisions, they're all less than 2 minutes. So, I mean, I'll do my best, but I'm not going to, like, change my pace of play at the final table to make you guys happy. I agree.
I'm going to raise all your blinds.
That's fine with me.
Getting a little chippy out there.
If there's short stacks at the table and you have over $1 million in chips and you're taking 25-30 seconds per hand, especially when you're folding, I think that's a little over the top. A little excessive on the time taking.
So you're with the complaint?
I am.
Appreciate the support on that. I really love it on the line, but it's nice to not be the only one saying it. So, thanks.
And Bernard is defending Sands.
Well, he is on his left.
I mean, you might as well butter up the guy on your left.
How much you playing? Raise the 50. Then I can either look like a huge idiot or like the right guy. You know? I mean, even if it was 35, I think I'm not trying to go like straight rules.
Gabe has defended his blind with 10-9 off.
Which is just not the case.
Flop is queen 10-4. Gabe flops 10s and checks it over to Shannon, who's got a gut shot straight draw.
This is a pretty standard check call for Gorski. He's got middle pair, 9 kicker, and the guy raising on the button, c-betting, is going to do this a lot of the times with nothing. So he's going to call.
At the same time, you don't want to raise and then end up having the 3-bet come in.
Right, you don't want to put yourself in a bad situation. What you don't want to do is open the door for a re-raise.
264,000 in the pot. Second queen and a third diamond hit the board. Gabe checks again. Neither player with the flush draw, and Shannon isn't going to fire the second barrel. The river is a 5. Gabe checks a third time.
This is a pretty good check here. He doesn't want to get raised. He also doesn't take away Shannon's chance to bluff at it again. So it's a pretty standard check call.
Shorr doesn't bite, however. Checking behind and sending more chips to the chip leader.
Root bone.
Not going to help Shannon's efforts on the evening. Now you hear Gabe Gorski there say root bone. He's actually a part of a poker podcast entitled Root Bone Radio. He and a couple of friends, Peter Jetton and Brian Powell, who are also high-stakes poker players, get together from time to time. Gabe will explain exactly what root bone means a little bit later for us. Stick around for that. King 10 suited for Bernie Lee, and he'll just lay it down.
He just mucks it. I mean, it kind of depends on his position. He's pretty early, so to open and get re-raised here, King 10 is not the best spot to put yourself in. I don't mind the fold at all.
Haven't seen Bernard play a hand yet. David Sands, who we've seen play quite a few, looks at 2 9s. And everyone no doubt looking at him as he plops 47,000 out there quicker than usual.
Uh-oh.
2 aces for Jim Anderson.
There's still aces, Jim.
All in.
And he realizes it, moving all in for 343,000 and 2 queens for Shannon Shorr.
This is a very bad spot for Shannon. It's going to be very difficult to get away from this hand in this particular situation. If he does, I'll be very surprised.
And he does not, moving all in for almost 1.2 million.
Oops.
Pretty sure you have exactly ace-king offsuit, Shannon, but I'll fold. Oh, wow. Lucky me.
You're calling me, aren't you?
Lucky me.
Ace of clubs. Shannon turns over the queen of diamonds.
Shannon looking quite frustrated.
Here comes the flop.
Who can blame him? He's in horrible shape heading to the flop, which is king high. A couple of spades out there, but Jim Anderson's got the ace of spades, so that's not going to help Shannon as a backdoor option.
Anderson here, very close to a double up, only 2 cards away.
Here comes the turn.
7 of diamonds is safe.
Dodges the first one.
Shannon's going to catch the queen. Jimmy's going to double up. Here's the river.
And dodges the second as well. Looking good for the former pizza cook and bartender who actually won a 1K mixed event here at Hammond a few days earlier for 26 grand, which free-rolled him into this tournament as he picked up an automatic seat. Shannon Shorr obviously not happy. No reason to beat himself up, however. We call that a good old-fashioned cold deck.
Hello, beautiful. Oh, yeah.
No one to play with. So play online at partypoker.com. It's fun, it's easy, it's the world's largest poker room.
You folded?
We're just down the road from Chicago here at the Midwest Regional Championship, and they do things a little differently here.
I'd say the difference between Chicago and somewhere like Vegas is definitely the Chicago accents.
The Horseshoe Casino.
The final table.
The chip leader.
The guy.
The coach.
The blind standing 20K with a 3K ante.
You're good. Real good, kid.
David Sands with 9-3 suited. And that's a quick fold for him. Deuce 4 suited for Tony Hartman.
Good luck.
And he's just going to ship in his remaining 95,000.
He finally found a winner. The old 4-high ship.
Clearly not advisable.
How many?
Gabe asking for a count. He's got ace-3 offsuit, and he's going to make the call.
Gabe knows that Tony's range is very wide here. He's short stacked. He's looking to ship it with pretty much any 2 cards.
Smooth call could open the door for a move behind him. King-Jack suited for Bernard Lee. He mucks.
He's playing a little too conservatively. King-Jack suited is not a fold.
He is ahead of the 4 spades, deuce of spades of time.
Thank you. Maybe I'll make a wheel.
Hartman is a 3-2 dog heading to the flop. 2 10s and a 9 isn't going to help Deuce 4 suited's chances. And Tony knows it. He's got 6 outs twice. Can't blame him for standing up. 5 of clubs does nothing for him. It's going to take a 4 or a deuce to put Tony back in that seat. No dice.
After getting it all in with 4 high and getting called, not a good spot to be in. He's probably thinking back to when he had pocket 8s and wishing he had played it a little differently.
Tony Hartman's going to have almost $61,000 to help him feel better about that misstep. Gabe Patgorski pads his chip lead by a touch. Shannon Shorr a distant second. Action has been folded around to Shannon Shorr. Back at the final table with ace-deuce offsuit. He opens for a raise to $50,000.
This is pretty standard in late position to open with an ace in your hand. Doesn't matter what your other card is.
Paint for Patgorski, who calls $40,000 from the small blind. Back over to the short stack of Brandon Adams. He squeezes out ace-5 suited. And just calls 30 of his remaining $144,000.
This call is very surprising to me. I would raise it here all in for sure.
Ace high flop. Gabe checks, Brandon checks too. Shannon does have an ace, isn't going to bet it.
He's got top pair, but he has the worst kicker. He does have position, which is good for him. What he doesn't want to do is open the pot to having to make a big decision on the turn of the river. He wants to keep it nice and small. Maybe somebody will bluff into him, and he'll make a call.
Gabe bets the Broadway draw on the turn. Adams moves all in. And now what do you do?
If I'm sitting in Shannon's spot, I'm probably going to call here. It's pretty tough to fold top pair. Brandon could have a draw. He could have a jack. You kind of just have to call.
Calls.
That's exactly what Shannon does. Gabe makes the easy lay down.
Ace of diamonds, deuce.
Both hands are turned over. Brandon's kicker is currently best. Anything other than a deuce 3 or a 5, however, and these two are going to chop it. And that's exactly what the 8 of diamonds makes a reality. Time to carve up Gabe Patgorski's chips.
We split it? That's good.
And give Mom a quick update. Just over the border in Indiana, Hammond Horseshoe Casino has the best gaming and restaurants in the area.
Welcome to Vineyards.
For a great meal and a great night out, come to the Horseshoe Casino. The final table continues from the Horseshoe Casino. All 9 players have qualified for the national championship, and tonight it's the ring and over $500,000 on the line. Picking it up, it's Bernard Lee, who we have yet to see play a pot, looking at 7-8 offsuit, and that streak is going to continue as he lays down.
He likes to fold.
David Sands with 7 deuce suited. Let's hope he'll fold this one a little faster than some of the others he's looked at, and indeed he does.
He is improving.
Speeding up with every orbit. Ace 7 suited for Shannon Shorr. He's got chips to play with. In the cutoff, he opens to 50,000.
Pretty standard open with the ace-7 suit.
996.
Kurt Kohlberg asking for a count. He's got king-jack offsuit.
On the button. Best place to be.
Raise.
On point.
And he's announced raise.
It's about time we saw some 3-bets.
Kurt slides out 130,000.
I like the raise here. When you 3-bet someone who has opened and people are opening a lot of hands, it really puts them in a tough spot because you don't want to call and play a hand out of position. So you're either going to have to re-raise and commit a lot of your stack or pretty much fold.
It's only 80,000 more for Shannon to call, assuming the action gets back to him at 130,000. Brandon Adams has king-queen suited. He could have made a move there.
With his stack as short as it is, it's very close.
Action back over to Shannon.
Shannon's in a pretty tough spot.
All in.
Try telling that to him. Kurt Kohlberg's the one in the tough spot now as Shannon is shipping it.
What a beautiful play by Shannon. That takes courage.
Doesn't take too much deliberation for Kurt. He mucks the king-jack offsuit. And you're starting to get a sense of why Shannon Shorr is such a force in the poker world.
I got into poker in 2003, like a lot of guys did in the Chris Moneymaker era. I started playing $5 house games with my college friends, and then made the transition to online poker. I actually took quite a beating, lost a few thousand, like as I learned the game over about a year or so, and then sort of figured it out, and I guess the rest is kind of history. There's a lot of pressure playing a final table just because the difference between first and ninth, that's like a couple years work really. You kind of have to detach yourself from like the magnitude of it and just play poker.
Shannon clearly has detached himself. If you're able to ship in almost 1 million in chips with ace-7 suited after getting 3-bet.
That was a beautiful play indeed.
Brandon Adams making a slightly less sexy play with ace-5 offsuit, but the right one. Opening the pot on the button, moving all in.
What's the total?
139.
Call.
Bad timing, however. David Sands has ace-queen.
This hand plays itself. Ace-5 on the button, short stack. It's a very standard chip, and ace-queen is never going to fold in the big blind. Brandon just ran into a hand here. What can he do?
Now, if Bernard Lee had ace-queen...
All right, Mom, dinner's looking good.
You never know.
He might have folded.
Mom is concerned, and rightfully so. The flop is 9-jack-deuce. No help for Brandon. He's fishing for a 5 to stay alive. Ooh, 6 is close. Not quite, however. 3 outs once to keep Brandon Adams alive.
Mom looking very hopeful.
And those hopes will be dashed as the 8 of diamonds lands on the river, sending the man with the masters in real estate into stack foreclosure. The early double-up doesn't pay dividends. Brandon has gone in 7th place, earning 77 grand. You're watching the WSOP Regionals presented by AMP Energy.
With poker, like a lot of things, not everything can be taught. You read the books, you study the players, but sometimes it's just about instinct. So you play and you practice and practice, and one day you don't think it, you feel it. Practice for free at the world's largest poker site, PokerStars.com, and find the PokerStar in you.
We're down to just 6 players at the Midwest Regional Championship here in Hammond, Indiana. Mark Owens busted in 9th. Tony Hartman followed him in 8th. And Brandon Adams thought he might have hit a lucky turn, but was out in 7th. Action down to 6-handed now.
The less players at a poker table, the more aggression comes into play. In order to win these things, you really have to come out of the woodworks and start playing a lot of hands.
Lines have also gone up to 12 and 24,000 with a 4K ante. That's also going to force the issue. Gabe Petgorski with pocket fours opens the pot with a raise to 53,000.
And then back to normal.
Lee folds.
Ace 4 for Doc Sands. That's David's online moniker. Shannon Shorr with ace 9. He's already got 24,000 out there, plus the 4K ante.
He's definitely not folding.
But he's not raising either, calling the 29,000. He'll be out of position.
There we go.
Here comes the flop. 5-10 deuce. Shannon checks the ace high. 2 overcards to the pocket fours. Don't look to be slowing Gabe down one bit as he fires 64,000.
There's a lot worse flops that can come when you have 2 4s in your hand. 10-5 deuce is a pretty good flop.
At least to
A 5 doesn't figure to be in Shannon's hand more often than not. A 10 probably the only thing you got to worry about, or someone playing back at you with the flush draw. Or just playing back at you with ace high. Apparently, Shannon Shorr check raising to 165,000, showing more of that heart that we saw when he put in number 3 against Kurt Kohlberg's King Jack offsuit a short while ago. He had ace 7 suited in that spot, and it was pre-flop. Gabe not buying it, however. He calls an extra 101,000.
Well, Shannon's raise here is representing a big hand. If he had just a 10, he would probably just call, given that he's out of position. If he had a flush draw, he probably just calls as well. So when he raises here, he's repping pocket 5s, pocket 10s, possibly pocket deuces. So for Gabe to call here makes perfect sense. I mean, what is Shannon repping here? He either has a monster or he's probably bluffing.
That polarized range lending to Gabe, looking him up as Shannon has bet 188,000 on the turn and been called once more.
Here's the river card. 5.
Second 5 on the river. This pot is up to 848,000. Shannon gives up.
I check.
Gabe checks.
Gabe makes the easy check behind, and he's going to roll over 2 4s. And that is not going to make Shannon Shorr happy.
This hand really shows in clarity how much poker has progressed. 5-6 years ago, this kind of play was not going on. Nowadays, these younger players, they have a pair of 4s, and they know they're good, and they hold on.
Shannon unlikely to win the pot with a bet on the end, so he just shuts down and hands the pot to Gabe, who isn't letting anyone near that top spot. For Bernard Lee, it's desperation time. Button is on Jim Anderson. Gabe will be first to act.
Oh, sorry. I didn't know.
Under the gun, he's got king, queen off suit.
This is a pretty standard open. I would always bring it in for a little raise.
Oh, I thought you told me the action was
Gabe's going to limp in, however, mixing it up.
This is definitely mixing it up.
What's the point?
I mean, maybe he doesn't want to get re-raised and have to make a big decision. He's the chip leader. He kind of wants to protect his stack. Personally, I bring it in for a little raise and see what happens. But I don't mind the limp.
Well, what is he looking to accomplish?
Hit a king or a queen. Play the hand against the big blind.
Or play the hand against a guy with queen 7 on a queen high board. Shannon Shorr limping in. 2 10s for Kurt Kohlberg in the big.
And Kohlberg doesn't think that Pat Gorski limped with a big hand, because that really wouldn't make any sense.
We do see players do that from time to time, but it does feel very elementary.
Right.
Very transparent if you limp under the gun and then 3-bet after someone raises. Polarizes your range down to aces, kings, maybe ace-king.
And not necessarily all the time. There's a chance he could 3-bet here with the king-queen.
134,000 total is the raise. Gabe just calls.
He doesn't give up. He's got position. He's got a huge chip stack. I don't mind the call.
But Kurt Kohlberg probably does.
There's a lot of flops that are very dangerous for Kohlberg.
Ace 4?
That's not one of them. Gabe probably doesn't have an ace in his hand, given that he just limped and called a raise.
150.
Kurt fires 150,000 at the flop.
Gabe's got the look. I don't think he wants to give this up this easily.
He does have the nut no pair.
It's hard to make the nut no pair.
Call.
We saw Gabe with the pocket fours play with a lot of heart. This could be a similar situation. He calls 150,000. Not going to be run off his hand, is he?
What, you mean aces and queens?
The queen on the turn, giving Pat Gorski the best hand and giving Kohlberg a fit. What do you do?
That's a bad turn card for Kohlberg. It's a pretty tough spot to be in. I mean, he bet the flop, the guy called, and now what is he going to do, lead out again?
The only hand he's really got beat here is a spade draw, right?
Absolutely. You know, a lot of the young players, of course, they like to float, which means just call one time on the flop with nothing to see what happens on the turn. In this particular case, he had the nut, no pair.
Check.
And checks in position behind Kohlberg.
I like that play a lot. I would check there almost every single time. If he has an ace and raises, now you're in a really bad spot because you have the two pair. It's kind of hard to get away from. If he was bluffing, you take away his bluff on the river. And if he checks the river, you can now make a value bet with your king-queen, knowing it's the best hand.
Planning for the later stage of the hand.
There's really no bad river cards. Well, besides a 10.
River is the 9. Kurt has checked again, and this time Gabe bets just 92,000.
A very small value bet. Quite possibly a bet to induce a check-raise bluff on the river by Kohlberg.
Or at the very least a call, which is exactly what he gets. Gonna need a sick bag at the feature table.
Kurt looking a bit disgusted.
Not quite the same feeling for Gabe Pat Gorski, no doubt. He's been in the chip lead from the beginning and doesn't look to be giving it up anytime soon. Jack Binion Steakhouse on property here at the Horseshoe serves their meat-up a la carte.
No mashed potatoes, no gravy.
Little broccoli.
What's a man to do?
Well, if you're Gabe Pat Gorski, it's take all the money it looks like you might be winning based on this chip lead and get yourself all the sides you want. But the action right now is on Doc Sands with ace-queen offsuit. I'm going to head to the restroom real quick. No, wait, I'm back. He's made it 57,000. 7-8 off for Shannon. He's got to recover here from that bluff that he made against Gabe.
Yes, he does. And he's going to go for the 3-bet here with the 8-7.
But the timing's a little peculiar because his table image is harmed.
It's harmed, but this hand, he's on the button, and Sands opens a lot of pots. I like the 3-bet. I mean, there's so many hands that Sands has to fold here.
Ace-queen probably not one of them, though.
151 total.
Nowadays, when you have ace-queen, a lot of these young players treat it like two aces and never fold.
Poker has clearly evolved quite a bit.
I'll go all in.
All in.
And there's an example. Doc moving all in for 762,000. And that'll settle the debate. Let's take a quick peek at the leaderboard, which reveals a constant theme so far in the action. Gabe Pat Gorski sitting pretty at the top. Shannon Shorr, the only other millionaire in chips. Not a two-horse race by any stretch of the imagination, however, though Kurt Kohlberg is clearly in trouble.
All right. Hey, it never gets old, man.
That's right, never gets old.
Everyone thinks it's, hilarious.
And you don't mind being asked?
No,
I'll tell you anytime you want, brother.
It's like I'm bragging.
Yeah, exactly.
I got $2.5 million.
This much, baby.
Raise to all in.
Feel like Kurt moves all in.
Kurt Kohlberg on the short stack, sticking it all out there with Queen 10 suited. We've seen Gabe calling all in and bust a player earlier with ace-3 offsuit on the button. Now it's ace-9 that he calls with.
This is definitely a call with the ace-9. Kohlberg's range is pretty open here.
Bernard Lee mucks ace-7. Ace-jack, though, for David Sands.
Very tricky spot to be in.
Well, you know Kohlberg's range is wide.
Very.
But where's Gabe at?
When Gabe calls, he has an ace in his hand. He could have a medium pair. He could even have king-queen, something like that.
And David Sands is over the top for almost $1 million total, all in.
I like this play a lot. I think that Sands knew that if if Gabe had a real hand, he would have re-raised here. And so to go all in with ace-jack is a very strong play. I like it a lot.
Unfortunately for him, ace-jack no longer the best hand as of the flop, which gives Kurt Kohlberg a pair of queens. Kohlberg looking to avoid making two pair, and he does so successfully on the turn, as well as pick up a spade draw, making the ace of spades no good. Six of diamonds, safe river card, and Kohlberg is going to triple up.
It's always nice to triple up at the final table when you're the short stack, especially when you're up against one opponent.
Yeah, not the easiest thing to accomplish, a triple up against just one player.
You're back in the blue chips, man.
I got a blue chip. I feel like I got 5 million right now.
The Midwest Regional Championship final table continues from Hammond, Indiana. Chips are starting to move around, and we've got an all-in and a call at the final table. Jim Anderson has been quiet, but he's put himself in position for a big double-up with ace-10 against Shannon Shorr's ace-5.
Short 3-bets Anderson all in here from the small blind, which I like because the button is opening with a wide range of hands.
Timing was bad, however. Finds himself up against ace-10 and now up against top 2 pair on the flop of ace-7-10. Shannon drawing dead on the turn. Insignificant river will be dealt. Jim Anderson's going to double up. He almost didn't make it at the age of 20. Actually had a heart attack, believe it or not. One of his arteries spasmed and closed. Got life flighted to a hospital. And now here he is at the final table. Let's take a look at the Amp Energy hand of the day. Shannon Shorr has had his chips in a lot of tonight's biggest pots. And the Amp hand of the day takes us back to another one against Jim Anderson, where an unlucky break for the Alabama native left him with queens up against aces.
I swear to you, I was going to try to make a hero for you.
For Shorr, nothing he could do, and for Anderson, a big double up that kept him off the short stack. Back to our final table where the action is on Shannon Shorr. And it's another big pair. Jacks this time.
Raised?
He'll raise on the button to 72,000.
His hand is very disguised here. He's opening a lot of pots on the button. To wake up with jacks is very nice.
Oh, check the thermostat in the building. It is frosty here. 2 aces for Gabe.
Very unlucky for Shannon to run into 2 aces again.
The writing seems like it's on the wall. Gabe re-raises to 207,000.
It's going to be very difficult for Shannon to get away from this one.
Wait for it. Wait for it.
Go all in.
Call.
There it is.
Gabe calls immediately. Gabe tables aces.
Very unlucky for Shannon.
He looks shell-shocked, and you can't blame him.
Jacks into aces, queens into aces, not what you need to do at a final table in order to win.
In fact, that's a recipe for a quick exit. Fortunate to be here in 6th, which is where it's looking like he's going to finish on the 9-high board.
Never too tilted for one last sip of coffee.
King on the turn is no help. Shannon needs a jack. Can he hit it? No, he cannot. Running kings spell the end of Shannon Shorr's evening. Not before a round of handshakes and a sip of Java.
Everyone relieved to see one of the best players take an early exit.
No doubt. Shannon's going to add a 6-figure payday to that exit. But Gabe Pitgorski has his sights set on the even bigger paycheck, more than $500,000 to the winner. Gabe the heavy favorite with more than 3 times the stack of second-place Jim Anderson. We started the day with 9 fearsome challengers looking to win the circuit ring and over $500,000.
I'm all in.
All in.
Back in the blue chips, man.
I really don't think it's inordinately long. It's
After cold decks, tough calls, and brave all-ins, we're down to just 5.
All right, Mom, dinner's looking good.
Join us next time as the chip leader Gabe Petgorski tries to stave off Jim Anderson, David Sands, Bernard Lee, and Kurt Kohlberg. For Antonio Esfandiari, I'm Ali Nejad. We'll see you next time from Hammond, Indiana. The road to the national championship goes through Hammond, Indiana. And with just 5 players left, Gabe Petgorski is setting the pace.
I play better than most people at the table, and I have more chips, like I should be in a great position to win.
With big names Brandon Adams and Shannon Shorr a distant memory, Petgorski will try to hold off 4 others to claim the circuit ring and over $500,000. The final table concludes now. Welcome to the World Series of Poker Midwest Regional Championship at the Horseshoe Casino, just a few miles outside Chicago. Hi everyone, Ali Nejad along with professional poker player Antonio Esfandiari. Just 5 players left in the hunt for the title, including 52-year-old Kurt Kohlberg, an MIT and UMass Amherst graduate, Harvard graduate Bernard Lee, member of the poker media and a poker instructor in his free time, David Doc Sands, 25-year-old, who was at one point ranked the #1 online tournament player in the world. 24-year-old Jim Anderson, who's coming off a $1,000 mixed event victory just a few days ago here. And Gabe Petgorski, the University of Virginia graduate, who is sitting on an overwhelming chip lead. He's going to be the man with the crosshairs on him. And we take a look at the chip counts right now. 6th through 9th went home with some pretty healthy paydays, but the real money is still to come. 15 and 30,000 are the blinds. 4,000 is the ante as our coverage continues. Jim Anderson will be on the button. Bernard Lee will be first to act. Least active player at the table.
Bernard Lee's at the table?
Well, he's managed to get himself into at least 5th place by doing that, so couldn't be all bad.
Hey, the higher you go, the more money you get.
That's true. 6 deuce offsuit for Doc Sands. He lays it down. Ace king for Jim Anderson. Something tells me that hand's not hitting the muck.
Certainly not in this situation.
Raises to 70,000.
Raises to 70,000. Around to Gabe Petgorski in the big blind. He does have a huge chip lead.
Call.
He can afford to defend the blind, and that's what he's going to do for 40,000 more with Jack-8 suited.
I like the call. He's got a massive stack.
Start with like 1.5 or something?
He wants to see a flop.
1.1.
As would I.
Oh, okay, thanks.
Jim Anderson is second in chips with 1.2. He's the man that can put the biggest of dents into Gabe's stack. And here's the flop, 6-7-9 with a couple of diamonds.
That's a dream flop for Petgorski. He's got a 2-way straight draw with a flush draw, and the 10 of diamonds gives him a straight flush.
And you can see from the percentages, despite the fact that he has Jack high at this stage in the hand up against Ace high, he is the favorite to win.
He leads, which I like. He wants to get it in. He also doesn't mind just winning the pot right there with Jack high.
Not going to be bashful with that many outs. And Gabe continues to run over this table.
So far, I'm very impressed with Gabe's play.
The regional championships are simple. They're a series of 4 $10,000 events where the final table gets a free seat at the national championship. There are other ways to qualify, but the field is limited to 100 players total. The winner of the national championship gets a bracelet and part of the $1 million prize pool.
I fully expect to hear that, you know, soon.
Yeah, I hope.
Maybe we'll play pot together right now.
There you go.
It's a long shot, Gabe. King Queen suited, the throne for Doc Sands.
He's going to raise under the gun to 60.
Makes it 60,000 to go.
He min raises with the King Queen here. Pretty standard raise. I would probably raise it a little bit more. I think he's ready to go with it.
60K is about 10% of his stack to start this hand. 10-7 suited for Gabe.
in the small blind, calling the 45,000. I'm not a huge fan of this play. He's out of position with 10 high. I would either 3-bet and put my opponent to the test, or probably just fold here and preserve my chip stack.
8 deuce offsuit, not going to help Bernard get involved, and will be heads up. Flop is 8-10 deuce rainbow.
It's a very good flop for Pat Gorski, obviously because he has top pair. Runner, runner, flush draw.
Runner, runner, straight draw, if you want to go that route.
All sorts of options. Sands is going to follow up with a C-bet here, represent something. There's a lot of money out there. He can't just check. That's too weak.
C-bet, short for continuation bet, which is what we expect from pre-flop raisers, especially heads up in position.
And this hand is going to end up playing itself. Pat Gorski is going to probably check raise all in.
87,000 to call.
How much is it?
182.
He re-raised it to 182,000.
Gabe makes it 182 total.
This is a pretty good raise here. He's leaving room for Sands to re-raise here and maybe think that he could get Pat Gorski off the hand. I like this play a lot.
Gabe trying to induce the 3-bet. No bite from Doc Sands. He lays it down, and guess who's dragging another pot?
The man himself.
Get some, Gabe.
The Gabeinator.
So hot right now.
What makes you say that?
Are you kidding? Look at him.
That was a joke. That was a joke. Get it? It's a joke.
Root bone, Peter. Or call me hot, kind of.
You might be wondering what a root bone is. Well, we talked to Gabe Pat Gorski, and the definition might surprise you.
Root bone. Root bone. Root bone, Peter. A root bone is when, if you're rooting for someone at a table, and let's say like I won a big pot and someone says, nice hand, and I throw them like $5. I throw them a bone for rooting for me. That's called a root bone. It's just kind of like a fun thing that, it started as kind of a joke, but now we think it's, hilarious. So we kind of keep it going.
Not totally sure what to make of that. You ever heard someone use the word root bone at the table?
This would be my first, and I don't think I'm going to be using his material in the future.
Well, Gabe's having fun with it, and so is his peanut gallery as we pick up the action. Kurt Kohlberg holding ace-7 offsuit.
80.
80 to go.
I'll raise it to 80,000.
Check the cameras, but I think Gabe just folded.
I don't know why. He wins every pot he plays.
5-6 offsuit. Not enough for him, but 2 queens for Bernard Lee.
I'm betting he's going to play this hand.
Hold on.
Bernard moves all in.
He's going to ship the whole enchilada out there. 567 total. That's a lot of extra cheddar for Kurt Kohlberg to stay in.
It's pretty difficult to even consider calling with ace-7 here, especially against Lee, who doesn't play many hands.
Kurt waves goodbye to 80,000 of his chips, which slide Bernard Lee's way.
Is he bluffing? Could be. German shepherds, huh? I don't trust Germans. 2 cards. Could mean anything. Let's raise the stakes, frighten them off. No one to play with. Darn. So play online at partypoker.com. It's fun, it's easy, it's the world's largest poker room.
All right, okay.
The final table continues from the World Series of Poker Regional Championship at the Horseshoe Casino in Hammond, Indiana. 4 regionals lead to the national championship. 5 players left in this Midwest regional.
Dave, how much do you have?
575.
Thanks.
How about you?
I've got 450, 475, 485, about 5.
Doc Sands and Kurt Kohlberg trading chip counts.
Which is standard on some level. I mean, it's important to know how many chips your opponent has, especially when there's such big difference in cash-out prize money.
Well, shouldn't you be keeping track of that in your head?
I mean, it's difficult to keep exact track, and they both seem to be pretty close, so he wanted to know if he was ahead of him or not.
Jim, what do you have?
Less than 1.1, I think.
Gabe folding ace-4 offsuit in the cutoff.
Which is quite surprising given his chip stack and his position.
Can I call you Bernie?
Sure.
Cool.
Just for tonight, though.
Just for tonight.
All right.
He makes me call him sir. Really?
Sir Bernie?
I dubbed B.
Everyone's pretty relaxed with all this money on the line. That surprise you?
No, it's pretty much how it goes out at a final table.
Really?
Yeah, I mean, people are kind of calm and relaxed and gambling for millions of dollars, and at the end of the day, it's just poker. You get 2 cards, and one guy wins at the end.
I'm not sure everyone is feeling the same way. Jim Anderson, not quite as jovial, a little more strictly business. He's heads up with Doc Sands. King Jack 8 on the flop, both players with a piece. Sands checks it over to Jim, who checks behind. Trip kings on the turn for Jim. Doc still with the pair of 8s.
I think he's going to bet just to find out if he has the best hand or not. Anderson did check behind on the flop here, so he doesn't put him on a king.
Yeah, it's going to prove a bit deceptive. Sands is min betting, however.
Anderson with 3 kings here knows he has the best hand, more than likely.
He's just going to call the 30,000.
Very deceptive.
Safe looking river card for Doc Sands.
Sands now thinking that his pair of 8s and kings is the best hand and is going for a value bet.
His kicker does not play. And a second min bet, and what we mean by min bet is minimum bet in No Limit Hold'em. That is equal to the big blind. Here comes the raise from Jim to 160.
Now he's wishing that he had not bet. He made a value bet, which is okay on some level. If you get raised here, it's pretty tough to call. Yeah, a part of me would have just check called or perhaps check folded, depending on the read that I got.
Nice bet.
Doc lays it down, and Jim picks up the pot.
Did you get me there?
Did I get you there?
You bluff me there?
You'll find out.
Huh?
You'll find out.
I guess I will.
Anderson's river raise doesn't get paid off, but at this point, it seems he's just happy to be playing poker.
My name is Jim Anderson. I'm from Worcester, Ohio, which is about an hour south of Cleveland. Although I just started playing professionally. I've played probably since 18, 19 years old, so 6-7 years. I lost most of my graduation money within a couple months, so I learned it the hard way. This is a very tough field. And every table I've been at, I've tried to recognize the weak player, and it's becoming harder and harder to do.
Jim Anderson can use an amp or two. That kid is low-key. Reminds me of somebody else I know.
You wouldn't be talking about me, would you?
Never. Not me. Wouldn't do that.
Well, that kind of temperament can be good at a poker table. To be relaxed and calm, collected, can be beneficial.
A good point. Bernard Lee with Jack 7. Lays it down. And it's Doc Sands on the button with Queen 10 off.
I see a raise in his future. And more often than not, the small blind and big blind don't usually wake up with hands. I mean, all he has to do is get through 2 hands here.
Collected.
And he's going to ship it in. 409 total. It's always a dice roll. Oh, that's not good for Doc. Oh. And that is even worse. 2 aces.
Big blind. Kurt woke up with aces. Dave's got Queen 10 offsuit, Queen of clubs, 10 of spades.
What was that about? More often than not, the small and big blind don't have a hand?
1 in 220 times the big blind wakes up with aces. What can he do?
85-15 favorite, King 5-10. Sands has a piece here. Gonna need some help, though, in the form of a 10 or a queen if he's going to double up and stay alive.
One of his more hopeful flops.
Turn card is 7 of clubs.
Less hopeful turn. And now it's 5 outs once for Doc Sand's tournament life. That's not one of them. The 8 of hearts seals his fate as our 5th place finisher. Players don't seem positive about whether or not Kurt has him covered, but indeed he does. It's official. And there are the goodbye handshakes for David Sands. He'll be leaving us with over 131 grand.
He was very active. He played a lot of hands. He played aggressive. He was in there seeing flops, and sometimes it just doesn't work out.
This final table may have some visual symmetry, but the chip stacks tell a different story. Gabe Patgorski has led wire to wire. Jim Anderson in second with 1.2. Kurt Kohlberg just surged into third, and Bernie Lee on the short stack. Let's check in with the recently eliminated David Sands.
Overall, I'm really happy with my play. I don't really think there are any spots where I could have played differently. Maybe I could have flatted one hand earlier that I 3-bet and I got 4-bet. But like I said, I felt like I put myself in a position to win. If I win that flip, I feel like I win at least half the time, and then I feel like if I hold with Ace Jack, I can win a good percentage of the time too. So can't be too disappointed.
David talking about some of the earlier action at the final table. Clearly, it takes skill, but a little bit of luck, no doubt.
Lady Luck plays a big part.
Gabe Patgorski has made it 100,000 to go with ace-3 offsuit.
Keeping the pressure on the short stacks, playing the big stack.
Blinds are up to 20 and 40,000 with a 5K ante. Bernard Lee is folding King-Jack offsuit on the button.
Given his image and his stack size, I think that King-Jack is a clear ship there. There's been a couple of spots where Bernard has folded that I disagree with.
You think he's just trying to move up in prize money?
That appears to be the case. However, he's not going to win the tournament playing that style.
Well, no matter what your style, being a poker player definitely has its perks.
My favorite thing about playing poker is the freedom. Somehow I ended up in Toronto, and I was going to stay there for 5 days. And then I stayed there for 2.5 weeks, and it ended with my friend saying, "Hey, let's go to Chicago and play this tournament." And now I'm here, and I could only do all this stuff because I didn't have to be anywhere else.
I've gotten to do and experience things that I definitely never would have done, if I had a normal job.
You can pretty much work when you want and have the rest of the time to play or do what you like. Definitely beats a 9 to 5 any day, in my opinion.
What's your favorite part about being a professional poker player?
Where do I start? I think number one would be freedom. You can do what you want to do when you want to do it. You don't have to be at a certain place at a certain time. If you don't feel like going to work, you don't go to work.
Yeah. You're your own boss. And Jim Anderson is the boss of 2 jacks right now. He makes it 90,000 to go. Over to Kurt Kohlberg, ace-10 off on the button. And he moves all in for 635.
And again, this hand is pretty self-explanatory. Anderson's always raising with 2 jacks, and Kohlberg is coming over the top most of the time with his stack.
Just very slight. I don't want to scratch it, that's all.
Jim Anderson makes the easy call. Now, it's worth noting that both Gabe Patgorski and Bernard Lee folded an ace, which leaves only 1 ace left in the deck for Kohlberg to connect with and make a bigger pair. Here comes the flop. King, Queen, 6, all hearts.
As you can see on top, he went from having 1 out pre-flop to having all those outs after the flop. Any heart, a jack, or the ace.
Anderson still a 3-2 favorite. Here's a turn card. It's a 9. Jacks are still in the lead. Kohlberg's going to need to hit one of those outs at the top of the screen, or he's going to be hitting the exit.
Tournament life at stake.
4 of spades is a brick. Kurt Kohlberg is eliminated in 4th place.
Thanks, everybody.
175,000 roughly for Kurt Kohlberg, who made the most of his stack early at this final table. But when he played the biggest pot of his evening, he had the worst of it. The Horseshoe Casino sees 3-handed action right after the break. Just over the border in Indiana, the Horseshoe Casino has the best gaming and restaurants in the area. For a great meal or a great night out, hit the Horseshoe Casino in Hammond. Time to find out who can lock up the World Series of Poker circuit ring. Three-handed action about to get underway, but first, let's hear from our fourth-place finisher, Kurt Kohlberg.
I think I played relatively well. Made one mistake early against Shannon, and then I was fortunate to get in Queen 10 suited and triple up, and then I woke up with the two aces, and the last hand sort of plays itself, so I thought I played relatively solid.
Nothing to be too shy about when you're banking $174,000 and change for your efforts. Not a bad payday. No doubt plenty of backup necklaces in his future. That one didn't prove to be as lucky as he wanted it to be. Right now it's basically a two-player race between Pat Gorski and Anderson. If Lee can find a hand and double up, he'd be right back in the mix.
We know he's not shipping it without a hand.
Two jacks again for Jim Anderson.
Raise to 90.
He makes it 90,000 to go, and this is the time to run good.
And the foul.
It's always a lot easier when you get hands, especially when it's short-handed. Two jacks is a very, very good hand indeed.
An ace for Gabe in the small blind.
Usually when the button raises here, an ace is a pretty big hand.
Boy, would this be a good time, wouldn't it? Oh, my gosh.
Probably only two or three hands Bernard Lee is going to make a call with.
I'm really curious what he does with ace-jack here.
Well, we know what he does with deuce-5. Back over to Jim Anderson, 210,000 more.
He doesn't mind getting re-raised. He's got two jacks. He's feeling pretty comfortable about his hand. Pat Gorski is an aggressive player.
Any chance he just calls?
I don't think so. I think three-handed here, this is a clear re-raise.
Anderson tends to agree. He makes it 650 total.
How many do you have behind?
About 1.9.
Pat Gorski doesn't look like he wants to give up.
350 more to call. Though that's clearly not an option.
Anderson really hasn't gotten out of line here, so I think the ace-6 should hit the muck.
Mullen.
Wow.
2.55 million, putting Anderson all in.
You got me.
Anderson makes the call.
I wasn't a huge fan of that ace-6 all in, especially given that Lee's the short stack.
Ace ball, ace ball.
You can just wait it out and get heads up.
He has recovered.
Ace from space.
Ace from space.
Here comes the flop.
Ace from space. Let's do it.
Flop is 9 of hearts.
How about a jack from Earth?
All right.
Top set for Jim Anderson.
Couple hearts.
Running hearts.
Anything other than a heart on the turn, and Gabe will be drawing dead.
Here comes the turn.
It is a heart.
From no life to some life. Look at all those hearts up there.
In real life.
Jim's still a huge favorite, but a heart would give him a real bad beat here.
Queen of diamonds.
It's red, but it is a diamond, and you can see the relief on Jim Anderson's face. He is going to double through Gabe to take over the chip lead.
Sir Bernie, how much you got now?
That's fine.
Bernie's still in there, surviving, squeezing his way to victory.
That's Sir Bernie, thank you very much.
Thought I said that.
You know who was rooting for a heart on the river in that last spot?
Thank you.
Let me guess, could it perhaps be Bernie himself?
Sir Bernie.
Sir Bernie,
Yeah.
yes.
A lot and littles. 5.5. 5.5. I thought that was 6-8 in play.
King Jack for Gabe, who's still licking his wounds.
So if
he's got 20 big blinds.
He's got 8, so I just did the math.
Come on.
And he's going to move them all out there.
2 hands in a row. First 2 times of the tournament.
I don't mind this play, but I don't love it, given that his opponents are Bernie and Jim, who are likely to not 3-bet light here. I think risking 100,000 is better than risking his whole stack.
Is that the first time you've been all in for your tournament life? Like this one right here? Because that last one you weren't technically.
Yeah, right here.
I mean, technically you weren't, so, you know. That's an incredible statement, though. I mean, there's, you know. I can't say that. Hell no.
Neither can we.
It was smooth sailing for Gabe Patgorski until a rogue wave in the form of one Jim Anderson left him searching for his bearings.
At Ultimate Bet, we constantly perfect and test our software to ensure it's the fastest and most advanced around. We consult with the best, so our tournament structure and player interface rock like no other. But there's one test that totally cleans up at the table. One test that truly defines the ultimate poker experience. Nice. Very nice.
Welcome back to the Horseshoe for more of the Midwest Regional Championship final table. While we were away, Gabe Patgorski took a pot from Bernard Lee, widening the gap between second and third place. Jim Anderson still comfortably on top. Gabe on the button with 10 deuce suited. He lays it down. 2 queens for Bernard.
Bingo.
Bernard all in for 375. King 7 suited for Jim.
Anderson in a pretty tough spot here. Against most players, this is a pretty standard call, I think, given his chip stack and his opponent's range possibility. Lee, however, being more on the tighter side, Anderson has to think about it.
Blinds at 20 and 40,000 with a 5K ante.
I call.
And Jim makes the call.
Oh, nice hand. It's way off. Nice hand. Good luck.
Bernard. These are all on the player. He is
Bernard kissing the picture of his wife and kids, which he carries with him to poker tournaments.
7 of diamonds.
Ace high flop with a 7.
Deuce of diamonds.
Hopeful. He's got runner diamonds. King or a 7.
Bernard's going to double up. Here comes the turn.
Turn is a 4 of spades. 2 queens still looking good. All Bernard has to do is dodge a king or a 7. Second round of smooches for the family.
All right, here's a river card. It's the 5 of clubs.
And they don't do him wrong. Bernard's 2 queens double up.
Nice hand.
Thank you.
Heads over for a fist pump from his mindset coach. Not really much harm to Jim Anderson's stack. Still around $4.5 million even after that loss.
Still sitting very pretty.
What do you do with $4.5 million in this spot? Full speed ahead or slow it down?
Full throttle ahead. You really have to keep the pressure on the short stacks. You have all the chips. You can afford to take some risks here and there, and you can't let them, take the blinds and antes.
Bernard will be first to act on the button.
He loves to squeeze them cards.
Yeah, 10-4 over and out. Queen 5 off for Anderson. He'll make it 100,000.
And again, he's got all the chips. And he's keeping the pressure on the big blind.
Queen 7 suited for Gabe.
I think he's thinking about shipping here. I mean, he knows that Anderson's range is pretty wide open. Oh, he just calls.
He does have position.
Anderson's going to lead out a lot of times. There's a lot of chips in the pot, and he has to take a stab at it.
230,000 in the middle. 7, 8, 3 on the board.
Check.
Gabe has got a pair of 7s. Neither player looking to bet.
Anderson's check basically says he's giving up.
Board pairs on the turn.
That's a great card for Patgorski. He now has 2 pair with the flush draw. He knows he has the best hand. Certainly he thinks he has the best hand. Anderson just kind of gave up that pot.
Hey, thank you.
Yeah. It was like in unison, too.
They knew how well I played it.
Huh?
They knew how well I played that hand.
Hey, I gave you props. Nice hand.
A lot of times when you open with those pretty weak hands, queen off 5 and whatnot, you're hoping to just win the blinds. And sometimes when you get resistance, you just kind of give up after the flop when you miss. It happens.
Still surprising to see Jim not fire the continuation bet, though.
Slightly. You should always follow through.
Anderson raising to 90,000 with queen jack off. Bernard will deposit his big blind in front of Jim as he lays it down.
I like the way Anderson is playing. He's really adjusted to the three-handed. He's in almost every hand, as he should be, and he's putting pressure on the other two opponents.
Easy to say, sometimes hard to do.
You each get 2 cards, and one guy wins at the end. Simple game, right?
One would think. Gabe will be on the button here. Started playing poker in 2005 while a freshman at UVA. At the expense of his GPA, as he puts it. Read every book he could get his hands on. Spent a bunch of time in the online forums. And I doubt that's where he learned to limp with ace-king, setting the trap.
Raise.
Bernie picks up 2 10s and ships it.
Call.
Gabe calls.
Good luck, bro. Seriously. Good luck. Really. Good luck. Hey.
We'll stand up and split this together.
Good luck. Seriously.
I think that Lee really means it. He might be rooting for Pat Gorski here.
He wants a bad beat. Maybe he just wants a root bone.
That was a genuine, heartfelt good luck.
Lee going back to his ritual of kissing the family portrait.
No tens. No tens.
9 high, all spades.
It's never easy.
What I hit?
14 outs twice.
You might need a widescreen television to pick up all the outs at the top of your screen. There are many. And that's one of them. Pair of kings for Gabe now, leaving Bernie with just 1 out, the solitary 10 of clubs for his tournament life. It's gonna take a miracle.
It's never fun to be sitting in that seat with 1 out for your whole tournament life.
All right, here comes the river.
Jack of clubs, close but no cigar. Bernard says his goodbyes, and he'll pick up over $236,000 to add to his almost $1.5 million in career tournament earnings. Bernie hung on as long as he could, but the race wasn't his to win. Pat Gorski celebrating with the rail, but now faces a daunting heads-up challenge against Jim Anderson. But before that, let's hear what Bernie thought about the final table.
The strategy that I always have at a final table is to go out on my own terms. I'm not going to try to make a move just to make a move. And, that's what I did. I mean, I have no regrets of any hand I played. All I can do is play the best poker I can. If I play the best poker I can, then the poker gods are going to determine that, right? And I'm fine with it. I can go home, head high, and then head back down to Foxwoods and now start playing another one. And I have no regrets. I'm ecstatic. Even if I went out 9th, and if I play that way, I'm fine. And that was the strategy from minute 1.
It's come down to 2 players, a pair of 24-year-olds with their eyes on one prize, the World Series of Poker Circuit ring. It's been an eventful final table. Doc Sands bowed out in 5th place. Kurt Kohlberg followed him in 4th. And just before the break, Bernard Lee's 10s couldn't hold up, busting him in 3rd. 2 kids left who might not grasp just how big this is. With the ring just 1 elimination away, heads-up play begins with Jim Anderson holding about a 3-1 chip lead. Blinds are 20 and 40,000 with a 5K ante. Both players are pretty deep.
We should see some good action moving forward. It's down to 2 pretty good players, both semi-aggressive, and it's heads up, and they both have good stacks.
Gabe was at one point the overwhelming chip leader. That honor now belongs to Jim Anderson.
All right, raise 100,000 from Gabe. Jim makes the call, roots hip hop.
First pot of heads-up play is ace-10 against 10-deuce. Gabe has Jim dominated, heading to a flop of 9-king-king. Both players check. Turns the 6 of clubs.
If Anderson checks here, he's basically giving up the pot, which he does. And Pat Gorski checks behind. This is okay. He's got the ace high, and he's probably just going to call a river bet if Anderson bets.
5 on the end. Changes nothing. 210,000 up for grabs, or at least that's what Jim Anderson is thinking, as he measures out a stack of chips totaling 130,000.
Anderson leads out, which is very suspicious. Pat Gorski is thinking, what hand could Anderson lead out here with? If he had a 9, he probably would have bet the turn. Is he really betting a 6 or a 5? That's why checking the turn kind of, he gave off too much weakness there by checking the turn. And so Pat Gorski has to think maybe his ace high is good.
7-8, probably the only hand that would beat it.
Call.
And makes sense considering Jim's line.
And he does make the call. Good call.
First pot of heads up goes over to Gabe. How important is momentum for you when it comes down to mano a mano for all the marbles?
It really is just about tempo and how your opponent perceives you as a poker player. It's really difficult to make a hand, as we all know, especially heads up. You each have 2 cards. There's 5 out there. Chances are nobody makes anything. So it really has a lot to do with who's being the aggressor, who's forcing the action, and who's putting their opponent to the test.
Jim Anderson with ace-jack, no doubt going to take charge. Making it 125 total. Ace-king for Gabe.
This is not a good spot for Anderson. Heads up, these are both monster hands. Pat Gorski is for sure 3-betting out of the big blind.
Well, we saw Gabe limp in on the button in 3-handed action with ace-king when Bernard Lee shipped it with 2-10, so he's done some unorthodox things already.
We did, and we know he likes to mix it up, but this is an entirely different situation. They're heads up, he's out of position. I think for sure he's 3-betting almost 100% of the time.
And as we can see, he's made it 360,000 total. Now back over to Jim Anderson.
Ace-jack of hearts is a very pretty hand. Heads up.
But there's no reason to get overcommitted.
No, he's got position. He still has the chip lead. His opponent has to act first after the flop. I think taking the flop here is the correct play.
Board is very dry. Deuce 7 queen rainbow.
I'm really interested to see how this plays out. They both have ace high.
Gabe quickly fires a very small continuation bet.
He has to make some sort of a bet. Betting 215 into 700K pot is a little weak, but he can't just check. That's way, way too weak.
Or maybe he needs to bet more.
Betting more is okay. I mean, he's definitely taking a stab at it, which is what he needs to do.
But perhaps Jim would fold the ace-jack to a bigger stab.
It's possible. I think that Anderson thinks he has the best hand. He knows that Pat Gorski plays aggressive, and he knows that he's c-betting almost every single flop here. So whether he bets 215 or 450, I think that he's always calling the flop one time.
Here comes the turn card, the 10 of clubs. Both players turn a Broadway draw.
I'm very interested to see what Pat Gorski does here on the turn. He did get called on the flop. He did get called pre-flop.
Check.
Gabe checks it.
In my opinion, there's no way that he would be checking a very big hand here.
But Jim doesn't seize the opportunity and checks behind.
I think that was a good spot for Anderson to bet the turn and take away the pot from Pat Gorski. But I think that Anderson thinks that he is the best hand and he can win in a showdown.
Check.
Jim checks. Let's see what
Ace.
Both players check the river. Gabe says ace, and he's got the one ace that beats ace-jack.
Anderson could have taken that pot.
Not a bad start to heads-up play for Gabe Pat Gorski, who's got the rail seal of approval. He's all smiles, but it's still an uphill climb.
Is he
bluffing? I think he's trying to bluff me here. I bet that ace hit. What is he thinking? What is he trying? When the ace came off on 4th Street, he played with his chips. 13 to 12 to 1, 16 to 4 to 1, 8 to 2. Makes my 2 pair good. Unless I'm drawing dead. I like my chances. I'm all in. We play at FullTiltPoker.com.
A lot on the line here in Hammond, Indiana, as Jim Anderson and Gabe Patgorski continue to battle heads up for over $500,000 and the circuit ring. Patgorski has narrowed the gap from 3 to 1 down to 2 to 1. One double up, and they'll flip-flop.
Patgorski here, being the aggressor, has picked up a couple of pots. Looks as if momentum is on his side.
Most definitely. All that cash just sitting out there, waiting to be claimed by one of these two youngsters. Gabe putting his 8-9 offsuit to work on the button. Jim has him dominated with 10-9 offsuit.
Anderson counting out what appears to be a possible 3-bet.
We raised to 3.
Appears no longer. It is a 3-bet. The re-steal to 325 gets the job done. Gabe wastes no time mucking his hand. I like that Gabe threw his cards in really quickly there. A lot of times you see players Hollywood and take forever, even though they don't have anything. I mean, is there any value to that, really?
You know, there is. You always want to be consistent. Whatever you do when you have a hand, when you don't have a hand, you kind of want to try and do the same thing over and over again. However, in that spot, he's just mucking his hand. You know, he could have acted like possibly he was folding a bigger hand to, you know, had he given off a tell with his raise. It is information.
Gabe gets a walk with Jim in the small blind.
You got enough blue chips.
What's that?
You got enough blue chips to do that. You got to count out 10 every time.
You're right. We'll hold on to the blue chips.
Yeah, it's hard to bet them. I found that like in the last couple of days. Once you get one, you don't want to let it go. Hey, but once your head's up, man, it's fine. You know.
Some friendly banter going on.
Ace-Jack suited for Patgorski on the button.
Monster heads up.
No problem putting blue chips in with that hand. 2 aces for Anderson.
Not such a monster when your opponent has 2 aces. I have a feeling we're going to get it all in here.
No slow play?
No, I think Anderson has to 3-bet here.
Last time he 3-bet, Gabe folded easily. This time he doesn't have 8-9 offsuit, however. 325 total is the 3-bet from Anderson. 200 more if Gabe decides to call.
Patgorski's the type of player that is probably going to ship it here.
Throughout the course of this final table, we saw him 3- and 4-bet very liberally. He's going to 4-bet here to 655. Ace-Jack suited better than the Ace-6 offsuit we've seen him make this move with in earlier play.
Yeah, 1.6 left.
Patgorski started this hand with 2.4 million. He's put in 655,000 of that 2.4 million. Looks to me like he's pretty committed. It's going to be very hard for him to fold.
I'm all in.
Anderson ships it.
Call.
Goes all in. Gabe calls.
Gabe makes the call, and he's in terrible shape for his tournament life.
The ace of spades.
No chance Gabe folds the Ace-Jack after the all-in.
Once he puts in the 4-bet, he's committing more than a quarter of his stack. I don't see him folding at all.
Jim has Gabe covered.
Good time to get aces.
I've had aces in big spots.
Clubby surprise.
Get some puppy feet.
Club in the window.
Is the tray of spades,
All black.
8 of spades, 7 of
Only
clubs.
one club on the board. Gabe needs help.
A 9 of clubs would be a good turn card here.
A zesty one.
He's going to be our second place finisher. Here comes the turn. Turn is a 7.
No help on the turn, and Jim Anderson is your Midwest Regional Champion.
Place finisher is for Gabe Patgorski.
Gabe Patgorski finishing in second, earning $324 and change for his effort.
Thanks, man.
He played good.
All right, everybody, how about a big round of applause?
Jim Anderson not looking too excited, but perhaps he hasn't gotten the memo that he is now over $500,000 richer. Let's look at the AMP Energy hand of the day. Gabe Patgorski sealed his fate with a poorly timed 4-bet.
I'm all in.
Anderson then put in number 5. Gabe called off. Anderson rolled over the Rockets. And on the turn, Pat Gorski was drawing dead, giving Jim Anderson the title. He didn't start as the final table favorite, but Jim Anderson ends it with the cash and the hardware. Over $500,000 for his night's work, while Pat Gorski leaves with over $300,000. No doubt a little disappointed given just how close he was.
Pat Gorski played aggressive. He put himself in a position to possibly take it down. In the end, that didn't work out for him, and Anderson woke up with the right hands at the right time.
It's official. The World Series of Poker circuit ring belongs to Jim Anderson. A monumental win for a kid who seems to be taking it all in stride.
I thought he had a pretty big hand, so, just try to get it in right there.
The 24-year-old Wooster, Ohio native can perhaps set his sights on that Cleveland dream home he's been thinking about. Gabe Pat Gorski held the chip lead for much of the final stretch, but it was Anderson's patient play and a couple of aces that proved to be the difference. A rich payday and some jewelry to go with it. For Antonio Esfandiari, I'm Ali Nejad. Good night from Hammond.